So once again, welcome everybody. It's great to have you here. It's a very important topic that we talk about today, and I hope we can give you, with the three fabulous panelists that we invited here to the session, give you some insights and healthy and kind of easy steps to start with becoming a more sustainable artist. Once again, I just kindly ask you to put your microphone on mute during that session if you're not speaking, since the session is recorded, so that we don't get any audio interference. That's great. And if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. There's a chat bubble in Zoom, and you can just use it, and we will answer or try our best to answer all the questions at the end of the session. That's kind of the let's say technical part, and then I would now start with the panel. Okay, so once again, welcome. We speak about how to become a more sustainable artist today. I have three wonderful panelists here to talk about this very important topic. This panel has been organized from gigmit. Gigmit is an online platform to connect artists with festivals and clubs. We are inspired by live music, based in Berlin, and the whole team is every day dedicating all their work and life to support artists on their career path to get more shows, and to support festivals and clubs to easier connect with artists. So far, we have built a community of over 250,000 users, which brings us to a position where we believe we have a chance as well as an obligation to look into topics such as mental health, gender equality, and sustainability, and embrace and encourage that much more to our day-to-day work and life. And that's also one of the reasons why we decided to host this very important session. We also partner with Key Change on gender equality and try to support festivals and clubs to book more gender-balanced lineups. We partner with Tough Earth on mental health to support and fight basically mental health amongst the artist community and beyond. And we are very happy to proudly announce that we also formed our very own initiative called Green Music Performance to support artists and promoters to become more sustainable. And basically what we do in this initiative is that we develop discussions like this one. We produce content and articles to help building a step-by-step knowledge to start becoming more sustainable and working on it. And we will also develop some features that we already started working on our platform, and I ask you to stay tuned on that. This will be quite exciting. This initiative that we started is supported from ProNTI for non-technical innovations by SMEs, conducted by the IBB Business Team on behalf of the Senate Department for Economics, Energy and Business in Berlin. So this is we are very proud to have this support in order to do even more on that end. Now, let me introduce this wonderful panel that I mentioned already. We have here Roni Dot. Roni is currently living in The Hague in the Netherlands. She's raised in a musical family near Tel Aviv. She's an artist who does synthie pop of the 80s and the chanson of Paris. Her latest album is called Flamingo Pink. The tracks actually were quite well featured. I would say well done on that part. Some made it to the New Music Friday playlist. Also 3, 4, 12, people who have been to the Netherlands know that is a very important format for the indie scene, let's say, and the music scene, but also featured from the famous Israeli indie radio station Qica, if I pronounced that correctly. And yeah, that's really, really, really cool, as well as seeing how well Roni is doing on performances, because she has played the well-known Oriel Fest, Tele Festival, Tour de Terrasse, but also Atonal Festival in Germany, and many, many more. So very successful on performing and playing festivals. Probably you can tell us some insights on that as well. But not just that, because Roni is also a very enthusiastic supporter of the environment, and does try to find different ways to connect action with creation, which is amazing to see and caught our attention. One example, during the Corona crisis, she initiated and produced a unique project featuring 33 vegan musicians from all around the world, singing a cover version of Bob Dylan's Times They Are Changing, and to raise attention basically for climate change and the human contribution to it, which is an amazing project. And yeah, congratulations and thanks to initiate that. So next to Roni, we have Qica, Erika Fagerqvist, if I pronounced it correctly, is living in Helsingborg in Sweden. You need to tell us where this is. And her background, she's adopted from India, and in her childhood and teenage or the childhood and teenage experiences helped Qica to develop a desire standing up against injustice, racism, and discrimination. She has released 8 singles, if I've seen that correctly, in 2018, 19, and 22. Her style is modern contemporary pop, R&B elements, soul elements, and since her debut single in 2018 called Wagner, it was very clear that the musical kind of canvas is very much painted by personal experiences and social issues that are happening, which is of course very important. Qica will be releasing her very first EP in 2024. And those songs touch very much the subject of mental illness, and she calls it surviving this thing called life, which I find a great quote, and yeah, probably also part of our conversation. What caught our attention is that in 2023, Qica teamed up with the Ocean Week in Helsingborg to raise awareness about microplastics. And yeah, we will talk about that, and the collaboration will continue. Next to Qica, we have Silvermouse from Puerto Rico on our panel. Justin Handley is one half of the duo Silvermouse. It is a psychedelic live-tronica duo, and is basically breaking ground by performing live shows that are supported by, I have to read this, consciousness-altering brainwave entertainment signals. So that sounds very interesting, and Justin, I'm sure you tell us more about this. The band is touring since 2008, mostly in the US and the UK. But what is very interesting is that the band spends her downtime in a organic fruit farm, and we are very interested to hear more about that, because that obviously also influences a lot your perspective to climate change and actions in this area. So welcome once again to our panelists. Big applause. I would jump in and ask the very first question to Roni. I read in your biography that you would have loved to be born in a different decade, and I wanted to know, why is that?
Well, of course, that has nothing to do with climate, and so it's just my personal love for. I mean, I feel like there were decades in the human history with a lot of style and a lot of like 80s synth pop is kind of what I do, but also the 50s, the 20s. I mean, there are decades with so many fashion characteristics and so many interesting things that I think for me it would have been really cool to be a person living there. And then I love retro kind of vibes, and I sometimes implement those in my music as well. But also just as a person, it seems to me like could be really nice to if I had a a time machine or just born then.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, basically moving away a little bit from the past and looking forward. There's yeah, an obvious dedication from you to yeah, become more sustainable as an artist. First, we would like to look at the touring aspect, or live performance aspect, because of course that's very important for all of us. And I would like to start with something maybe very simple, the catering topic. And I heard you have some initiatives on that end, and of course I introduced you with this initiative featuring 33 vegan artists. So tell us a bit more about what you think about catering on tour, or for when it comes to performances, and how do you implement that in your own touring life?
Yeah, so I think touring is really maybe a harder part of the artist life, in the way of not everything is in my control as an artist, in our control as touring artists. Sometimes you get to a place and you just have what you have. Sometimes you even send upfront all kinds of requests or gear or so, and not always that really exists. So touring is also has to be very adaptive, I think, or else I mean, you're not going to make it otherwise. If I look into the catering thing, then yeah, personally, I'm vegan, and I was giving lectures in the past with the organization called Vegan Friendly that exists in the US and also in Israel. And I was giving lectures about the very big influence of our diet, what we choose to eat, with climate change, with the world, with environment. And since I know and I have a lot of information about that, then for me personally, the choice is to be vegan. Not everyone has to be vegan, of course, and my personal taste is not going around and convincing everyone I see, but I see the importance of that, and I think that I try to implement that wherever I go. So, of course, when I go to concerts, especially while touring, when it's not, I don't go home at the end of the day, but I stay there, and usually meals is something that is covered. I always make sure that there's an option for that, and I know that for some places it's easy because it could be a restaurant I'm performing in, or it could be, I don't know, a food market, or all kinds of, there are so many situations, festivals, but I always make sure that they are aware that some people have that request and that it's important. And I think probably a word I would say a lot today is awareness, because if organizers of festivals know that some of the people attending are vegan, some of the artists are vegan, then we're going to have more options. And that's good for everyone. It's good for me because I have an option, and whoever is not vegan has an option. And of course, people that aren't vegan, they can eat vegan food, right? So it's better for the environment. And then overall, I'm a very big believer in, build up the change, make some kind of change, make a bit of a change. And then eventually, I think it was, yeah, in July, I was performing in Germany in Osnabrück, and I told them up front I was vegan. And when I came there, they said, thank you. And I say, why? They're like, we made this dish because you're vegan, because we don't have anything. It's going to stay on the menu because it's great. And so many people had a new discovery. And for me, it's so, maybe it's so simple, such a simple thing that I did that made some kind of change, because now someone else going there also has an option. And again, just better for the environment. So just try to make that change wherever I go. That's my personal take on it.
And how do you make sure that it's that there is vegan food? Is it implemented in your catering rider? Do you have a rider, or do you just send an email before? How do you kind of do that?
Yeah, I have a rider. I know that riders are sometimes people don't necessarily read them very, very well. So yeah, also when emailing with a place, I always make sure, just like I make sure that they have the tech rider, just like I make sure when am I arriving, when is the show, do I have a backstage, or am I gonna be doing my makeup with the audience in the bathroom? That happens as well on tours, or in my car. I mean, just like making sure of everything else. Where do we sleep? How far it is from each other? Are you aware of the catering requests? And I think at the beginning it felt to me like, oh, I'm such a diva, I have requests. But I mean, if someone is allergic, he's gonna say it, right? And if someone is this or that, doesn't matter what. So, and again, when my choice, my personal choice, I think is globally beneficial, then I definitely put it on there. Yeah, make sure.
Even better, yeah. Cool. Well, thanks a lot. Qica, moving on. Artists in Sweden are usually based in Stockholm or in Gothenburg. That's kind of where what I know. What brought you to Helsingborg? And tell us more about it.
Well, it's one of the cities closest to Denmark, so it's connected to the continent, the Europe, connected to Europe in a good way. So makes touring Europe probably easier. But I was born in the north of Sweden. Decided to move here just because I wanted to try something new, and then I'm stuck here since like 15 years. So Helsingborg is also a city in Sweden where artists can live.
Cool, and it connected you very well to an initiative called Ocean Week. How did all this came together?
Well, one of my neighbors actually started this project, and I saw an opportunity to team up with her. And once we decided on that, I decided to start to raise awareness around microplastics. So I think it was like 3 or 4 shows I had up to the event with her. I decided to start wearing a plastic bag when I was performing, which got people talking. Like, is that really a plastic bag? Like, some people asked another person to ask me because they didn't want to ask like upfront. But yeah, it was a plastic bag and construction spill. And we made it to the local paper at one of the gigs, so I got to talk about it for a broader audience as well. So yeah, and we've teamed up for the future as well. We applied for money, and we just heard that we received it, and trying to make a project of competition in middle schools. Where they will design something from a bunch of junk that they collect themselves. And then in the end, they're going to work with this for like a couple of months. And then we're going to have like an event where we have a vernissage, and we will have some artists performing. And during this project, we're gonna raise awareness around sustainability. This is like a younger population. I think a lot of them, that's my opinion where I live anyway, that many think that you're either a climate activist or you're not really, this is not my thing. But this is, you know, like we all think probably here, this is everyone's thing, because otherwise we want to have a planet in the future. So I think that starting with them and showing them a fun and cool way to do this. And I think a lot of people think that they maybe don't know how to be sustainable, what choices to make. So this is one way for us, and making it a competition where they can actually win money is a great carrot for them, I think.
And how was it for you, like in the very beginning? How did you came up with the idea to wear a plastic bag? I think it's not as obvious. So tell us more about like how this whole kind of creative process in the beginning came to you, to mind, and then of course to the performance.
Well, I think that my best advice to artists who wants to be like more sustainable is to be like creative and to be fearless. I think that was kind of what drove me to do this. I've always loved to try new things. And I think that I was thinking like, how can I raise awareness? Well, I'm teaming up with Ocean Week. This is an opportunity. And this is, for me as a person, important first, and second as an artist. So I think maybe for Silvermouse and Roni, it's the same thing, that this is a personal engagement. So the journey is not that hard to make as an artist, but we are also artists. So I wanted to make it fun and like, yeah, I didn't really think about it that much. I just decided it would be cool to have a plastic bag on me. It just came to me, like the idea, and it will be a way to start a talk. So I think that maybe by choices we make as an artist, we can introduce that talk. It's hard to just start talking about it. By the way, I think that sustainability is really important, you know. So if you make small choices in that direction, it's easier to like talk about it and raise awareness.
Well, yeah, thank you, and I think everybody here attending this session as well is making the right step in the right direction to work on it, and probably driven by very personal reasons first and foremost. Moving on to Justin. So you, as one half of Silvermouse, you live on a farm in the forest. How is that, and how is that kind of impacting your thoughts and your perspective on your artistic kind of presence, being more sustainable on that end as an artist as well?
Well, I think that for us, it's all very tied together. You know, I'm very lucky in many ways, but my duo, my bandmate, is also my wife, you know, my life partner. We do everything together. And so when we think about also sustainability in music, and I think for a lot of artists, this is the important thing, is it's more than the music, right? It's just sustainability. You're thinking about your life. My job happens to be, oh, I want to play music. How do I make that sustainable? And, you know, and part of the offset though, so if you think about things like flights, which are very hard to make sustainable, if you're going to fly to some place that wants to have you play at a festival, you can either say no, which is a difficult decision, or, you know, or you can figure out how to offset that. And a lot of offset is tree planting. You know, that's one of the big things that people do with carbon offset credits, which are debatable as to their, you know, value. I think that all of this is it's a flexible conversation. It's something that you need to do your best at, but really right now there aren't clear answers. So I think that for us, you know, we run our house, we're pretty much entirely off grid. We have our own solar setup, we have backup water. We can do rainwater collection. We got very skilled at that after Hurricane Maria took out the island. You know, we didn't have running water for like 5 months, electricity for about 8 months, internet for about 10 months after that storm. And so everyone here got a lot of experience with, well, what is it like living with the earth? And you know, and so for us, it all kind of blends together. My wife also, so one of the main things that we sell from the farm is actually skincare products my wife makes. We grow neem, nettle, nani, and ylang ylang. So we make our own essential oils like scents and perfumes. And she makes, you know, being an electronic music dance band, one of our big things is she makes these two products called like Moon Glow and Earth Shimmer, which use mica to make glitter, like face glitter, you know? And so we also sell those at shows as like, you know, it's not really band merchandise. They're not labeled to our band in any way, but it's something you can do to help kind of support touring or playing shows, making money, you know, if you're not charging ticket sales. So, you know, and I think that we really try to, we limit ourselves in a lot of ways. You know, we mostly play self-produced shows. We don't play venues that serve alcohol. Festivals accepted, but we don't play bars. We don't play, you know, venues where the primary source of our income is going to be alcohol sales. And by doing that, and also by trying to play places that are environmentally friendly, we definitely, in some ways, limit the number of places, the number of venues we can perform at. And on the flip side, we often end up playing very cool places, you know, farms, sustainable venues. We look for places that generate their own power. In the US, we've played quite a few just like dance spaces, sprung dance floors, you know, like ballet studios, basically. And we bring in, you know, we bring everything. So we bring all our own equipment and the sound system and the setup and do that. And that's been working out pretty well for us recently. We've finally been able to hit a tipping point where we typically can make more on self-produced shows than we could if we just booked a gig. And we have we're very experimental music, you know, we're not for everybody. So if we show up in a bar and play, like, you never know how that's going to go. It could go well, you know, but we've definitely played places where people come up and they're like, can you just turn off the electric stuff and play guitar? And you're like, actually, no, we can't do that. You know, so in a lot of ways, you know, catering the venue as well is one of the ways that we kind of control the conversation. And
cool. But I mean, you touch a lot of points. I mean, there's one big trend that we see that like producing shows in the non, let's say, classical venues is a great thing for an artist, because it often through that uniqueness gets a higher attention of the audience to come and in the end to make a higher success. But on the other hand, it's also one of your many ways that you just described on offsetting indirectly the unavoidable the flying to those places and basically doing everything around that and being aware and cautious about it. So yeah, that sounds like an amazing strategy, and thanks for sharing that. When it comes to touring, I have another question to you, Roni, because in the introduction, I mentioned already that you have been very successful actually on playing many of those amazing festivals. So how do you, how do you tour? What is kind of your thought on becoming more sustainable also when it comes to getting to those places and so on?
That's a hard one. I have to say, I can't say I nailed it. I can't say I found the best way. I can definitely say I always take it under consideration. What would be the best thing? At the moment, when we tour, it's 3 people. So we could do 1 car. But a car is probably better than flying. Let's say if I could drive to, I don't know, 7 hours from here, it would be easier for me to take a flight. But I rather take 1 car. But I still rather take 1 car than take a train that goes to a bus that then you have to wait and take the tram, and then because it's also 3 people with a lot of gear. So it also has to be handy. I mean, it cannot take us 2 days just to get somewhere. So I think it's really about trying to calculate how much you're gonna contribute to to that mean non-environmental kind of way of traveling. But yeah, you are traveling. I mean, one way or another, it's impossible to do it with a bicycle. If I'm in the city, of course, I'll always choose that. But that's a hard one. I think in a way, it would maybe be easier for me as a independent artist. Money is always an issue. I mean, how much are you going to earn from the gig? How much are you going to spend on that gig? For me, it's also, since it's my project, I pay my band. What's going to happen there? Because obviously, if it's a financial suicide, there's no reason to do it. And make a tour of 10 shows that you're going to lose is very not smart, to say the least. So it has to be calculated in a way. I always try to know where I'm going. And if I have 2 shows, for Germany is where I go a lot, for instance, such a big country. So I have one in the south and then one in the north, that I try to make the smallest step that I can and not go traveling like a crazy person wasting so much gas. So I try to do that as much as I can, but it's definitely not perfect. It's definitely not perfect. Maybe if public transport or the trains would be way, less pricey, maybe it would be easier for me to say, okay, so we'll do it because it's worth it environmentally wise. We'll do it and it will take more time, but since it's also more expensive than taking 1 car, then like Justin said before, sometimes limiting yourself too much it's a hard thing to ask, because eventually we want to play the most shows we can. So definitely it's an equation that I cannot say I've solved, but I try to consider it as much as possible.
Yeah, but it's great to hear your description on and the challenge that you have for yourself to have it, of course, manageable in a way, and also not be exhausted before the gig, to not be able to play the show in the end, and on the other hand, of course, to still travel as sustainable as possible in the given circumstances. Erica, do you have any? You said you mentioned you live very close to Denmark, which makes it kind of easier when it comes to performing on the continent. So how is that for you? Do you have a different or additional kind of strategy to share with us?
I do agree with Roni a lot. I haven't toured a lot like you have, but I think that we are dependent on local transportation, and if that is not in Sweden and Denmark as well, like in the area where I live, the trains, for example, you can't count on it, especially when it's rush hour. They always are really packed, and putting yourself there with gear, that's impossible. You wouldn't make it in time probably. So, or you had to go many hours before. So I think that, and if you have more than 1 gig each day, that's going to make you really exhausted. So you have to think about this from different perspectives. And I think collectively traveling and also like Roni said, shortest ways, and if you have multiple gigs, you try to put them in an order so that you won't be traveling. That's also for the environment good, but it's also for yourself and the band. So I think that that aspect is, I think, a problem for us to I mean, not only us as artists, but a lot of people will, if you have an important meeting, you know, you want to be there on time. Is the public transportation something you can count on or not? So, but I also think that sometimes it's not cheaper, as Roni said. So I think that is also one aspect, because your promoters are sometimes not willing to pay that much, and you have to make it, you know, make it together, not being able to, like, you know, or if you want to, like, make a living of this. And I think that connects to, like, for your example, Justin, you talked about you sell stuff from your farm, for example. I have another job on the side to try to have enough money. And I think also, like, merchandise is a way. But I think, yeah, that's a challenge, definitely. Mm.
A big one is also audience travel, right? A big kind of impact, according to studies, much bigger than actually the often single or small vehicle kind of from an artist. Have you incorporated that in some way, like to for example, inform people who come to the show and ask them maybe to, if possible, come by public transport or share cars to come? Maybe question also to Justin, or maybe Justin, you can solve it, since you say you also do a lot of off locations that are maybe a little bit remote and difficult to reach. Is that a conversation you have with the audience?
You know, that's a great question. It's probably not one that we engage with as much as we should. Sometimes one of the main venues we play here is a little place called Earthship PR, and it gets trickier and trickier. We've been growing. It's like our closest to home venue, and you know, we bring maybe about 100 people out there on a pretty regular basis, and there's parking for like 14. And then there's overflow. I mean, you know, this is also, it's very rural. It's the hills of Puerto Rico. So there's, like, you can park up and down the road. There's a gas station within 5 minutes walking distance, and they have a bigger parking lot that you can kind of park at and walk up. But so we have encouraged ride sharing there for sure, just more to manage our headache. But it's a great idea. I mean, I think that, you know, that's something that we could probably easily do, would be even start a little Facebook group, you know, and just say, hey, you bought a ticket to the show? Here's a link. Like, chat to people and see if you can come in, less cars. Because I think about that a lot. And in some ways, that's how, you know, in terms of touring, I feel like that's a partial justification for playing more shows and moving around as an artist, is that you then keep people closer to home. You know, the more places you can hit, the less likely somebody is to pick up and drive like 2 hours to come and see you. And I think it's definitely, you know, in a lot of ways, it's less of an impact. I mean, I saw the numbers on Taylor Swift's tour, and they estimated that she added $6 billion to the US economy in gas and hotel rooms from her last tour, you know, and that's a significant impact of, you know, of people going, of collecting, you know, tens of thousands of people from a pretty big area, you know, to all come into one central place. It's much harder when you get to the scale. I think it gets even harder to, you know, to do it sustainably. When you're a smaller artist and you're doing, you know, a couple 100-person shows, even 1,000, 2,000 person clubs, normally that's contained in a town or city where people can get there relatively easily. When you start getting beyond that, it gets much harder to figure that kind of thing out.
Yes, but raising awareness, I think, again, as we said today, quite often, is a possibility on every scale. And of course, I mean, if you start at a small scale, as you said, with 100 people audience, then hopefully at some point it makes the way up to the very top, as at the level of Taylor Swift as well. So being inspired from Justin. So that's I think a very good thing and achievable thing. Roni and Erica, do you want to add something to that topic? Otherwise, I would move on to a different area.
Oh, if it's okay, yeah. I would just like to say it depends on. I'm thinking a lot about live streaming as well. I mean, we have, of course, it's nothing like live music being there with other people, but I think that the whole COVID thing made us also aware of that we could reach out in different ways. And I think for me personally, I did. I had a screening of my music video online and also live performances, and I think that it wasn't as hard as I thought, and it reached people that weren't able to come otherwise. I mean, we were talking about mental illness before. Not everyone think it's real, fun to be in a crowded room or have disabilities make it harder to come to concerts or whatever. So I think that's also a way to be more sustainable and like reduce traveling climate imprint as well. So
yeah, that's a great idea. And actually we have at gigmit and Erica, that's where we met the last time, also a virtual venue that we develop at the moment and that we offer to be used for all our users. So you probably all will get access and invitations to that in the future, which is a great add-on to, of course, bring in people that don't have to travel for very long distances. Of course, it doesn't replace the life experience, but it's a great way to mitigate certain issues that come with fans that are maybe across the whole world, and still give them access to the music and your performance. Yeah, it's a great point. Okay, I have another, I think we have a bit of time left, so I have a little video that I want to share with you from Roni that she posted on Instagram. Let me just set it up here for you, and then I would like to start with the video to show you a totally different aspect from the like, let's say from an artist perspective and what you can do as an artist, moving a little bit away from the live performance and touring aspect to a production aspect. And then I just start with the video. Here we go.
It's been 2 months since I promised you to try and make my next production more sustainable. So if you want to see how that went, here's the answer. So the first thing I did was to check in Marketplaats, a secondhand app where people sell things they don't need, because of course, if they don't need it anymore and I get it from them, it's way better than buying new materials. Look what I found, just what I needed. Some of the things I went to get with my bicycle, because that is of course more sustainable. I did not make a video of the guy selling it to me when he was pretty much laughing that I'm gonna go and walk like that around the neighborhood, but I did. Some things were a bit too far to take with the bicycle. Check out how that went. You see these back drop papers? It didn't fit in my car, which was very funny, or not that funny, actually. Just have to drive now like an hour back with these sticking from my car. The next thing I did was try to borrow stuff, like an ironing board, which I really don't need, don't own, and don't want to have. It worked. The next thing I needed to figure out was the clothes. I had a stylist that was working as hard as possible to borrow everything she could from designers and not buy anything that isn't needed, so we don't have extras that we don't really want. I still needed some more things, also accessories, so I went to 2 types of stores. Kling Globes, they're like department stores. They have everything for the house, not only clothes, also accessories, very, very low prices. Also, I went to giveaway stores. Just like it sounds, you give things you don't need and you take stuff for no charge. 4 more tips in the next video. Hi everyone, it's been 2 months.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about this a little bit. Roni, how did you come up with that idea? What was kind of the inspiration, and how did it all go?
So I think Erica said that before. I mean, it's what we do is music, and then I think I really care about is the environment, and that just makes sense that it would go together. So I was beginning with planning this video. So I did the production myself. I had a cameraman, this, that, but I started thinking, the first thought was, oh my God, it's going to be so expensive. And then the second thought, when I was looking at the things like the background thing, is that I have to buy all of that. And I said, now I have to buy all of it. It's really expensive. I don't want it. I don't want all that laying in my house afterwards. What am I going to do with it? And then it occurred to me, I mean, how many things I actually need and don't want. So I started, thinking secondhand. And then I started looking, and I found that, not that far from me, like a half a kilometer from here, is some photographer that is actually selling all this stuff for really a low price. And what I need for one shooting day is definitely, he has that. So it became more and more clear that there are more things that I'm not thinking of that I could actually get, again, secondhand, giveaway. I took it as a personal challenge. And after I took it as a personal challenge, I said, why not make a video out of it? Because again, it's all about awareness. Then I gave someone else maybe the inspiration to do the same thing. So some things went amazing. Some things were like really way, way, way cheaper. And some things weren't that cheaper, but I made my best effort. And for sure, I'm going to do it next time as well. Even telling people, I couldn't make one video out of it because it was too long, so I splitted it. But come together. People were coming here to film from Amsterdam, like 3 people. I said, talk to each other, come together. Not only because I have to pay them these travel costs, but also like, save us 1 car. Just come with 1. So all kinds of things that when you put the awareness into people, then we step a bit out of our automatic behavior, I guess, and just make more of an effort because no plan B.
And you use the content as well for your own kind of like to connect it with your artist profile. And I think it's also, of course, you didn't do it because of that, but it's also a great synergy to connect it at the end with an artist's social media profile that you have a need to create a lot of content regularly. And this is a very great way to do it, and probably also a way that is picked up more often from fans to, I don't know, share it and like it and so on. So I think an amazing idea, and also the decision to talk about it and record it and not just act like it. So in both ways. We are running kind of to the end of the time here. If you guys have any sort of questions, there's at the moment 1 question in the chat already. If you have some questions, feel free to post them in the chat. I have one very last question to you before we move on with the audience questions, and that would be to all of you actually. What do you think is the biggest challenge, and what is your opinion to overcome the challenge when it comes to be a more sustainable artist? Maybe Erica, you want to start?
Okay. I think that our consumer society is one big, and I think that I have not overcome that, but I'm trying to fight it. And I think that, as Roni said, I think that or at least for me as an independent artist, I feel that money is always an issue. And that's why I connect with people to be able to do my art. And I also make a statement with my clothes most of the time, like I did with the plastic bag dress. And I met one of my very good friends through borrowing clothes from her as a new designer for my first music video. And I think that's an excellent way for me to constantly renew myself and also have like not having to spend a lot of money on a new wardrobe. I think that sometimes also I'm not afraid of wearing the same thing twice or 3 times. That should not be a problem, but I know that a lot of artists feel like we need to renew ourselves, or some bands have like a, you know, you have your wardrobe is the same, but for many artists it's not like that, and you should wear like the newest, or you should have, you know, different brands or whatever. But I think that that's a way when you consumer society, whether it comes to your personal clothing or the merch you are selling, or I think that's a challenge.
Cool, thank you. Justin, what about you? You're muted. You're muted.
I was going to say dealing with travel, but I actually think that the biggest issue is probably guilt. When you're really trying to run down a sustainable path, man, you can feel guilty about everything. There's so much stuff that is not sustainable, and that's not really our fault. Like, we're living in this world that is not built on a sustainable infrastructure, you know. And I think that even if, like, this t-shirt, this is a t-shirt, it's printed on organic cotton, it's all using natural dyes, it's expensive as anything to sell. Like, you know, you don't sell a lot of them because they're expensive. But even if I did, let's say I went on tour and I sold thousands of them, you know, the impact that makes compared to something like H&M, right? It's nothing. It's and I think that that's also something to remember, is that like trying, speaking, being active, trying to activate other people's brains as artists is probably one of the biggest things that we can do. You know, when I was a kid, I grew up on like show parking lots in the US, you know, when the Grateful Dead were kind of ending, and then a whole jam band scene was emerging in the US. And I think that the Dead, they had 100,000 people driving all over the country around them. They also turned more people on to the concept of environmentalism than anything I can think of. Like, they always had, their parking lot was full of like, you know, Greenpeace and all of these causes and talking to people. And so I think that in a lot of ways, we have to realize that the music industry isn't, you know, like the fashion industry, and it's not the automobile industry. We're not actually making the biggest impact. And so really whatever you can do and to move towards sustainability. And I think that some people let that guilt stop them. It's like, oh, I'm still going to fly. It doesn't, nothing matters. You know, it's a waste of time. But really that's the paradox we're in, is nobody's going to have a perfect life. You know, nobody's going to have a 0 carbon footprint today. And so what is it that you can do? What is it that you can do? You know, I think is the real question.
And answering that and following that path.
Yeah.
Thanks, Justin. That's great advice, I think. Roni, what about you? What do you think is the biggest challenge, and how do you think is the way to overcome it?
I think we talked about the travel, which is probably for me the biggest one. But since we discussed that already, then I would say merch is something that I'm trying to figure out. Because my last album was printed as vinyl, which is obviously has an impact. And I tried to make as less as possible and also as less damage as possible. But still, some things, you know, it comes in a plastic and it comes with this and it's printed with. So some things kind of have to happen. And then I ask myself, okay, how can I make it as less damaging as possible? And I'm trying to figure out, I don't know, interesting ways to overcome that. I've looked into with a new company, can new vinyls be made from old material? Can they actually be recycled into a new thing? So way less companies can do that, but it is possible. So it's something that for the future is for me definitely a good option, because you still, yeah, it's a lot of plastic, it's cardboard, it's paint, it's a lot of things, not to mention CDs that come with like in plastic. So I would definitely not want to contribute more waste to the world. So that's something that for me is still, I'm trying to figure out how could it be done in the best way.
Yeah, that's a good good thought. Thanks so much. Moving on, we have a question from the audience. Andy, he wrote, and please just take the mic when you feel comfortable to answer it, whoever of the three of you. Andy asks, how much time took the progress of being sustainable for each of you?
How much time until we felt that we were sustainable? Is that the question? Or
well, I don't know. Andy posted in the chat, but Andy, if you want, you can also take the mic and explain.
There was a progress you made to be sustainable. So you build everything on your own. You made a schedule. You make a master plan for it. How long took that for you?
I can give an answer if you want, or someone else wants to speak first, then sure.
go ahead.
Andy, I think it's a great question. I don't think it ever ends. I don't think you're ever done. It's a process. For me, the process of becoming a more sustainable artist was just the equivalent of becoming a more sustainable person. The more I knew about the food industry and about farming industry, the more it occurred to me that for me, I have to be vegan, and then also contributes to my sustainability as a person and as an artist. And then the same with fashion. The more I learned about fast fashion, the more it occurred to me that as a person, I don't go on shopping sprees on Black Friday in Primark. I don't do it. I go secondhand, and then I wear on stage secondhand, and I promote that thought as we don't have to follow that thing, because behind the fast fashion industry, there is a lot to know, and so on with anything really. And then it evolves into, now that you know this information, you kind of can go back in a way. So like Justin said, we can make it zero emission. We can make it so you have no carbon footprint, but you can do the best you can. So the more I learn as a person, the more it occurs to me what I have to do in my home, at my work, with the concerts that I organize, with the live shows I perform, with touring, and so on and so on. So I think I personally keep getting better just because I know more and more about it. And then I try to reach more people with it, knowing how important it is. So that's my answer for that.
Thank you.
Justin, do you want to add something? I felt you no?
I mean, no, I completely agree. It's all a process. You know, the farther you look into it, the crazier it gets, you know. So we have trees we take care of, we harvest them, we process them, we turn them into skincare products. And you think, okay, they're all organic, they're all natural, they're in a metal tin, it's reusable, but it's mined, right? Metal's mined. Oh, how far down that track do you go? The glitter we use, it has mica in it. Mica is a completely natural dust particle from a rock that's also mined, you know? So then you're like, where do we source our mica? Is it sustainably sourced mica? Is it not? And I think that it's a rabbit hole that you can go down infinitely, you know, and really until you're basically living naked in the forest and only eating stuff you pick up off the ground, there's still farther you can go, you know. And it's figuring out where where is it? What can I do? You know, for our next tour, we're actually, for the merchandise, we're going to go to thrift shops and we're buying a bunch of stuff, and we have a template we're using, and we're going to use spray paint. Okay, so then is it okay to use spray paint? I don't know, but we're going to spray paint our logo on a bunch of old thrift shop clothes. In our assessment, that's more ecological than printing a bunch of new fabrics, you know? I don't know. It's a tricky one. You always got to be just trying.
I totally agree. I mean, there's no right way to do this. We just have to do what we can with what we know, and collect more knowledge as we go. And not, I think that you said it really good, Justin, not being guilty and letting guilt get in the way.
Thanks, Erica. I think that's a great way to wrap it up. A very good statement on that. I want to thank you once again for attending that panel, for sharing to the panelists, for sharing all the great insights and background stories about it. To all the attendees, thanks for your time and for your interest. I think it's very important that you showed up here and try to continuously make an impact, raise awareness, and create a better world. We just launched this minute a new article on our blog that is linked here in the chat. Or if you go to blog.gigmit.com, you also will find it first coming up, which is a checklist to more sustainable shows and more sustainable touring. Another additional helper in addition to what we learned today from the panelists. And as this video is recorded, we will be also releasing this video on YouTube, so you can rewatch it if you want to go back to things, and of course share it as much as possible to create an even bigger impact. Thanks so much once again. I wish you a wonderful evening or rest of the day, depending on where you are switching in from. And see you soon to the next panel. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, gigmit.
Thank you, guys.